Hello and welcome to BBC Scotland News Weekly, our weekly download and podcast, rounding up some of the stories that have been making the headlines over the past 7 days. Coming up, schools look at photo ID cards to help stamp out bullying, a boost for commuters as new platforms open at Edinburgh Waverley, and a Christmas surprise as Dumfries and Galloway is hit by an earthquake. Scotland's secondary pupils could end up carrying photo ID cards to try to reduce bullying. The move would help to stop the abuse of cashless meal systems, which are used in many schools. Raymond Buchanan brought us this report.
This is how many pupils pay for their school dinners, not with cash, but with cards. They're widely used across Scotland, but the system is open to abuse.
We're getting evidence from secondary schools about bullying for these cashless cafeteria cards, among other things. The problem being that it's easy to transfer them from one person to another because there's no way of proving it belongs to a particular individual. And so we've been looking at the concept of trying to extend photo ID to pupils for a range of functions in one single ID card which would be issued by the school.
Pupils already face a variety of ways to identify themselves. Some have their hands scanned, whilst others provide fingerprint information. Critics say ID cards risk turning schools into prisons.
If we go too far down this route, we've had people calling for ID cards, we've had people calling for airport-style scanners in schools, we've had people calling for random drug testing in schools, and we've got some schools already using fingerprinting systems. There's a danger that we create an environment that feels more like a penal institution than a place of learning.
But the Teachers Association insist ID cards would be helpful. They want them introduced across the country and insist pupils should get used to proving their identity because they'll have to do it in work and university anyway.
4 new platforms have opened as part of a £150 million upgrade at Edinburgh's Waverley Station. Rail managers said the changeover went smoothly, but there's another year of disruption ahead. Louise Batchelor had the story.
Waverley's brand new Platform 3 welcoming a train from New Craig Hall on the outskirts of Edinburgh. This and services from Fife are among those chiefly affected.
The main changes are going to be that we're going to see 2 trains arrive from Fife that are going to terminate at Haymarket instead of come right through to Edinburgh Waverley. The other changes are going to be the Crossrail services. They will no longer run through to Bathgate or from Dunblane to New Craig Hall, and people will have to change at Edinburgh Waverley.
Hundreds of workers have kept going through Christmas preparing the new platforms. The next job is track realignments.
What we're doing here is enabling Waverley to cope with the growth which we expect to come on the rail network over the next 10 years. We're building 4 new platforms, we're creating space for 4 new train services in Outreach Way that will cope with the growth on the rail network in years to come.
From today there'll also be a new escalator helping passengers from Edinburgh's Princes Street reach 2 of the new platforms.
For people arriving at Waverley, the main things to look out for are the fact that there are 4 new platforms and 5 of the old ones have been renumbered. There's also a new platform at Haymarket Station. To find out about that, you need this leaflet, which also gives details of the new timetable changes. To find out where all the platforms are here, you need this leaflet.
So is the message getting across?
Well, my trains won't be terminating at Haymarket, they'll be coming in, but they may be coming to different platforms. I think a number of people seem to be confused about what is happening.
The rail industry say only 5% of all services will be affected by the changes, and that a year from now they should be finished, meaning better punctuality, reliability and room for new services.
Doctors want there to be a steep rise in the price of alcohol to try to cut down on drink-related violence. According to a new report, more than 28,000 people are treated in hospital every year because of trouble caused by drink.
In Scotland, drink often leads to violence. But it's not only the partygoers who suffer the hangover. Thousands of victims of drink-fuelled fights end up here at accident and emergency departments. Today's report is startling in the numbers involved. Across the country, hospitals see 28,000 victims of boozy assaults each year. That's an average of 77 a day. And of all assaults reported, 70% are related to drink. Here at Glasgow's Royal Infirmary, booze keeps the doctors very busy.
The figures that I know in our department are that at least 1 in 10 of our patients who present at any time during a 24-hour period has an alcohol-related problem. Sometimes acute intoxication, sometimes due to chronic disease such as chronic liver disease.
Now the wider medical profession is examining how they can curb the alcohol problem.
There are various ways we know that we can try to achieve that. One is to look for an increase in price. Now that could be done at a UK level, but there are also things we can do locally to increase price by combating these discounting, deep discounting approaches.
Those who run Scotland's pubs and clubs say the biggest problem is with the cheap alcohol available in supermarkets.
We are now a country of take-home drinkers, and the vast majority of that alcohol is sold to supermarkets. So it would seem logical that we need to do something about the prices in supermarkets, which are ridiculously low at this time of the year.
But any curbs on alcohol sales would be unpopular amongst moderate drinkers, and that could mean some tough decisions for politicians: increase prices or continue to let the health service bear the cost of drunken violence.
There was an unexpected Christmas delivery for people in Dumfries and Galloway, an earthquake measuring 3.5 on the Richter scale. Scientists described it as a significant UK quake. Willie Johnston had the story.
Normality resumed pretty quickly in Dumfries. It takes more than an earth tremor to deter Boxing Day shoppers. But at 10:40 this morning, thousands of people here stopped in their tracks when homes and workplaces began to shake all around them.
I just felt the house shudder for 2 or 3 seconds. My first thoughts were that the water tank up above had fallen over for some reason. I started looking up to see if there's any water coming through the ceiling. My wife, Diane, she thought that some kind of vehicle had hit the house, and that was the cause of the shake, but it was really scary for a couple of seconds.
With the shaking, a loud bang like a crash or explosion. This police switchboard was jammed.
I think people were frightened initially, but we very quickly established in here that it was over a very wide area, perhaps maybe a 10 or 50 mile radius of Dumfries, and therefore we're fairly quickly established that it wasn't an incident such as an explosion or a crash, and that we felt fairly early on we were confident that it was in fact an earth tremor.
There were no reports of injury or structural damage. Here's how it looked to seismologists.
This earthquake was the largest felt in Britain this year, and it occurred around about 5 miles under the Earth's surface, so that it caused little damage, although people certainly felt it.
Today's tremor is thought to have been the biggest felt in this part of Scotland since 1979. The one then measured 4.7 on the Richter scale. Strangely enough, it also happened on Boxing Day.
A Bronze Age logboat lifted out of the River Tay is shedding light on how our ancestors lived 3,000 years ago. Andrew Anderson visited the experts who are examining the vessel.
3,000 years ago, up to 12 Bronze Age men would have sat in the hull of this boat as they steered it along the River Tay. They'd hewn their vessel from the trunk of a single oak tree. For the past 3 months in this workshop in Edinburgh, experts have been taking samples from the logboat, studying how it was made and how it was used. It was back in August that a team of archaeologists rescued the Carpo logboat from the River Tay. It had lain here in the muddy riverbed between Dundee and Perth for 3,000 years, undiscovered until 2001. With great care, the boat was finally lifted out of the water. Now it's in the lab, experts can get a good close-up look at its features. They're particularly intrigued by repairs to where the backboard of the boat or the transom would have been.
One of the features we've found inside the transom groove is moss caulking, which is effectively a kind of waterproofing of the join between the transom board and the vessel. So we actually have, late Bronze Age mosses there, which we've been able to identify.
This is one of the best examples of a logboat found in Scotland. New scientific techniques mean it can be studied closely without any damage being done.
In days past, you had to whack great bits off the boat and have them analysed in a very crude way. Now we can do a lot with very, very small samples, so the boat looks just as it did before.
In the meantime, this team take no chances with their logboat, so whenever it's not being studied, the covers go back on to keep the timbers damp. An important archaeological find is being well cared for.
That's all from this edition of BBC Scotland News Weekly, but don't forget you can get up-to-the-minute news from our website at bbc.co.uk/Scotland News, and if you have a story you want to tell us, you can email us at newsonlinescotland@bbc.co.uk. Until next time, goodbye.